We're here with Jim Cuddy. So excited to be here talking about Skyscraper Soul, which is out tomorrow, actually. And we're psyched. How do you sit down to write a solo record? I mean, you were just touring this Blue Rodeo record for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Come off the road, and it's time to write a solo record?
Well, you just think that that's 2 years of not writing songs. That
Right.
That's 2 years of being completely absorbed with the things we left behind tour and the way we presented it, and that was really enjoyable. That's really, sometimes it's nice to not have to write songs, but that's also 2 years of thinking about stuff.
Right.
And then getting the chance, I planned probably almost a year in advance when I would have my record out. So I knew the spots. I knew I could have November, December of last year. I knew I could have February. I knew I could have a little May. So I just locked myself downstairs, and I just had my guitars and piano and stuff like that. And I actually am so appreciative of the time to just be alone with my thoughts and start translating them into songs. Because, I spend a lot of time performing, and that's a great thing, but it kind of shuts down, for me, it shuts down that creative force a little bit.
Skyscraper Soul is the title track, and I think it's an ode to Toronto, right?
You're
This
right.
is home.
You're right.
Is that something that you're on the road for 2 years, and you're thinking about home, and you're thinking about this city in particular?
Well, you know what? I think that this was really spurred on by getting tired of all the derision that Toronto gets from people around Canada. It's become kind of like a common joke. Right. And, people say, where are you from? Toronto. Oh, it's too bad. And then I always, for years and years, it didn't mean anything to me. I always think Toronto was a great place and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it started to occur to me that maybe Toronto needed a bit of support. And because it's been an amazing place for us as Blue Rodeo, for me as a creative person, it was coming back to Toronto from New York that made all of the things that have happened to us in our creative career happen. Right. Because there was such a community that we got involved with right away. Yeah. Like right away, you'd walk down the street and you'd run into people that were also making music, and you would discuss it. And then you would go back to your very cheap apartment, and then you would go to work and come back and do more music. All those things were really important, and I can remember so many nights walking the streets of Toronto when they were empty, 3, 4 in the morning, and just thinking, this is a very romantic place. This is a great place. This is a great place to bounce ideas off the walls. We were just on the cab ride over here, we were talking about how vast the city is, and you can never go to Leslieville or never go to the Junction and then discover these parts of our city that, you could be living here for 30 years and never come to. Yeah. No, we have there's amazing bones in this city, right? With the neighborhoods sort of just so interwoven to the urban areas and the commercial areas. And you're right. If you wander around all these different, I just went to Liberty Village. We used to have our office there. Right. I haven't been to Liberty Village for maybe 10 years. I was shocked at what it had become. Yeah. It's like this groovy little place. There's a 24-hour grocery store and stuff. And but all those things, I think Toronto is easily criticized, but also just as easily praised. Yeah. It's one of the most ethnically mixed cities you'll see in the world. You can go to maybe London, but everywhere else, you come here and there's all kinds of anything you want. I remember when I was in New York, the test of that city was no matter how arcane your interests are, you're going to find some community. Right. And Toronto's become like that. Yeah. No matter what you do, but musically, but cleaner and safer. Yeah. No matter what you do, you're going to find some compatriots to do it with. So, speaking of this whole idea of community, and all these ethnic groups, it's kind of a stretch to ask the question in this way, but everybody watched the wedding, and I know that you're referring to the royal wedding, but this was a global opportunity for all of us to get together, and it's a little mundane that it was somebody's wedding, but that really brought us together, right? That wedding, and you write about it. That's interesting. I hadn't actually thought about it in that. I thought about it in terms of the noble act of Will giving his life to his nation. Like, I think at the heart of all that pageantry, all that beauty, I know lots of people watch it because they're Anglophiles and they just love the carriages and the beauty and all the upper class people. Yeah. But I think at the heart of it was this very noble act of this kid who could easily just live the life like his brother.
Right.
and just date models and just have fun.
Yeah.
Just be rich. But he's not. He's actually learned, he's at Eton and he goes and studies being a king with his grandmother. And I think it's actually kind of uplifting. And somehow that wedding holds two things that are very different. It holds this amazing hope, and it also holds this incredible hopelessness.
Yeah.
Because the gulf between the rich and the poor in England is much greater than we even imagine. I mean,
Right.
we travel. Part of my inspired about this song was traveling through England and realizing, my God, if you get in London, you don't even think there's a recession. But if you travel 30 minutes out of London,
Yeah.
you're going to see some it's no wonder that it blew up. It's no wonder. And so I tried to write the song from the perspective of somebody that was leading a life of very common desperation, and to whom this spectacle was something that surprised him, that he was moved by it. Because I was a little surprised. I watched it because I knew 2 billion people were going to watch it.
Yeah. How do you write? I mean, you've become, over the last 30 years, a master at writing the love song. And is it because it's so personal and it's easier for you to put pen to paper when writing about your emotions? I mean, there's songs on this record that are just unbelievable. Regular Days, Still Want You. They're beautiful love songs. Is that just something that is innate in your ability to write, or is it something that you think about, or how do those things come together for you?
Well, I think that if I sit down to write songs, and I've been thinking about stuff for a year and a half, some are imitative of songs that I've heard.
Yeah.
One thing, I saw a Jackson Browne concert. I'm a huge Jackson Browne fan. I've seen very many disappointing concerts. These concerts where he was just by himself on stage, 17 guitars behind him, and he just did songs that were yelled out to him from the audience. It couldn't have been better. And I realized that part of the incredible power, the draw of that music, is when he and his voice and guitar sing about the acceptance of love gone wrong. Right. And that melancholy, it was always so powerful to me. And, I think I have a bit of that strain in me. So if I start going down that path with a song, I can do it. I understand the details of it. Yeah. And I've seen it. It's all around everybody. I think that where somebody might pick up macro details, I pick up little details. I pick up, somebody picking at their sleeve as opposed to saying what they want to say.
Right.
And so those are the kind of things that you write into a song, and then all of a sudden, when I'm sitting downstairs, I'm in that song. And then it's easy.
Is that probably what makes these songs so timeless, is that everybody can relate to that melancholy of love gone lost, or those relationships? Like, everybody's had them, or everybody will have them. And is that, I mean...
It's very true.
Is that what adds to the timelessness of Jackson Browne music, or your music, or some of the earlier singer-songwriters of the late 60s and 70s, is that whole love connection?
Yeah, I mean, it's I agree with you. I mean, the love connection's a funny way to put it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I think that everybody's had their heart broken, and everybody's also felt the exaltation of love.
Sure.
And so with everything that is good, there comes the fear of losing it. And so no matter, I always find this when I'm writing a song. I can write a song for 2 verses about how great something is.
Right.
The third verse is inevitably going to be, well, what's it going to be like when it's gone?
Right.
And that just, I think that's just the way the mind is, again, able to hold opposites together. And yes, I guess that is timeless, because it is something that people can't always. I'm not sure everybody's going to relate to the wedding song, but I think the details of the man's life are easy to relate to.
This record's very eclectic in its sound. There are the sweet pieces like Everyone Watch the Wedding, but there are songs like Water's Running High with that great groove. Is that just stuff that you wanted to be eclectic about, or is that just how the songs came about? I mean, the band is hot. I mean, it's a great band.
Yeah. No, I definitely wanted to write some beat songs, and I really wanted to use the trumpet. The trumpet
Right.
created a sound that I really wanted to use. That song that you're talking about, Water's Running High, I wrote it to accompany my wife's film. She wrote a 22-minute black comedy called Four Sisters, and I wanted to write this song about this mother who could no longer look after her kids, because her black comedy is all these sisters chopping up the mother's pharmaceuticals, and she's just died. She's upstairs. She's just died. So it's funny, but a little bit dark, right? So I just knew I wanted to. I had this song. I had this idea. I wanted the trumpet. I had everybody spread out, and when it all came together, because they're such good players, I was so excited by it. I thought, that's how I want my record to be. Right. That's where I want to go. I want the trumpet to tell stories, and it because it's going to tell a story. It's not going to be about a field in Saskatchewan. It's not going to be about the mountains. It's not going to be where I've been before. It's going to be bluesy. It's going to be jazzy. It's going to be Burt Bacharach-y, but it's going to be about the city.
Yeah, I was going to say that, that the sprinkling of the trumpet and the horns throughout the entire record is something new. Right?
Yeah.
And it kind of moves the record along, but it's also really surprising when you hear it in so many places, which is great. And I was actually thinking of Herb Alpert a little bit.
Yeah, there is that, right?
Yeah.
There's that ba 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 da, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think of that as Burt Bacharach, but it's definitely of that era.
Yeah, totally. 14 songs. There's one. I think City Birds is instrumental, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Do you sequence this stuff? Do you think about how they're all going to fit together in a record?
That's a nightmare.
Really?
It's a nightmare. I actually ended up, and I am very decisive, and I do not, unlike when I'm working with Blue Rodeo, I like to make decisions and move on, be comfortable with them.
Yeah.
But this one, I ended up mastering 2 different sequences.
Really?
And it was just whether to start with Skyscraper Soul or not, whether I wanted to actually say, this is what I'm talking about, here we go. There are a lot of songs. I knew that somehow when we got to City Birds, we were done, in a manner of speaking. The last 2 songs, to me, are like a postscript.
Right.
They are 2 little sides of the coin of the fragility of love, but they are the postscript. And the record is kind of over when, you take the pause for the instrumental, you hear the little city noises, and so you think, oh, that was quite a trip.
Well, and I think people have to listen to it in its totality. I don't think people can pull out. I mean, they will, obviously, because of the world we live in now. People will pull out individual songs, but I think the record in its totality is quite beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
You're going to tour this record now, obviously.
Yeah, I start in November in Newfoundland, and then go across the country. Between November and February 14th, I finish in Toronto at Massey Hall. Between then, I'll have covered the country.
And the plan is to tour these records, make people aware of these songs, obviously, and then New Blue Rodeo. I would be remiss.
Yeah, and then next year will be next year's the 25th anniversary of Outskirts, the release of Outskirts. So while I'm away, I don't know if this is a good idea. Greg is gonna take Outskirts and remix it. There was always one that sort of we didn't really understand what we wanted in those days.
Sure.
And there's some additional songs. We're going to remaster the first 5 records.
Wow.
And remix Outskirts. So that'll be our sort of silver anniversary release, and then we'll make another record. I think we're going to make another record. Greg's had some pretty serious ear problems the last year, so he's not really able to do like full bore, scorching loud music anymore.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to make another record like we made 5 Days. Go to his farm next summer and make a 5 Days Revisited.
I know you're a huge baseball fan.
Yeah.
And we're right on the cusp of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on who's going to win the World Series?
Yeah, I think Philadelphia's going to win. I think this is it.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be Doc Holliday's introduction into infamy. I think it, good for him. But they just are absolutely. They've got the right psyche. They got the right players. They're the right guys to win. Even
over. With a 10-game losing streak going into the.
I don't think that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, they were in the playoffs so long ago.
Right.
And some of the other people that are going to get in, especially in the American League side.
No pitching.
They're going to get in losing too, and so.
Well, did you watch? I was stayed up late to watch that Boston Red Sox New York Yankee heartbreaker because there's nothing more
heartbreaker. You just showed your colors.
Yeah.
There.
I'm excited for however this ends up. But wouldn't it be great if the Devil Ray or the Tampa Bay Rays, whatever they call themselves,
You want the Rays to
now,
overtake them?
yeah, just because it's not Boston or New York, and just the beauty of that would be.
Yeah, no, I want it to be close, but I want Boston to get in there. I think they got the
Yeah.
most compelling characters, and
Right.
I mean, Tampa's great in a short series, but they're not going to be great in a long series.
Right.
And who knows what's going to happen to Boston? They're going to have to hit 15 runs a game,
Yeah, because they can't
right?
pitch.
But they can't pitch at all.
Yeah.
And once the starter's gone, the relief's worse.
Yeah, it's true, and it's amazing that they spent all that money on Lackey, and he hasn't
I know.
been Lackey at all.
I know.
And it's sad that they're blaming. I think the Boston press is blaming a lot of this on Theo Epstein not getting enough arms, but he doesn't actually go out there and pitch.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much he can do.
And he filled it up. But what about the promising Blue Jays? That's also
So exciting,
There
right?
is there's about a 2/3 core of some absolutely dynamic, winning players.
It's amazing what Alex Anthopoulos has been able to do in the last year and a half since he took over, right? And
For a 14-year-old, that's pretty amazing.
shed the Vernon Wells contract and bring in some. I mean, Vernon was great for the city, but we were never going to win.
No, I know, and it's amazing, and I'm so he hasn't done very well, obviously, in Los Angeles, but I'm so glad he just ripped it up in Toronto.
Right, sure,
because
yeah.
we love him. We just want him to be, take your money, be happy.
Yeah.
But thank God you're not with us anymore.
It's amazing. He has an out clause, and he could, say he wants out of his contract. But I couldn't imagine anybody saying no to another couple of years of $20 million.
Yeah,
right?
he's $23 million this year, right?
Yeah.
No, he's smart enough not to. But there's some very exciting players, and it's our infield's great. We got a lot of outfield. We got a couple of pitchers that come out. Couple are very confusing, right?
Yeah.
Morrow's very confusing. Drabek's very confusing.
If they get it together,
but
it's
Alvarez,
a dynamite team.
Romero, Brett Cecil looked like he can pitch.
And we're on the cusp of the hockey season starting, and you're a Leaf fan, right?
I know.
Are they going to make the playoffs this year?
Well, it's hard for me to say they're not going to.
Right.
But I think that, if you look at a team and you think, did they make some serious improvements? I think they made some modest improvements.
Right.
And the problem is the offensive improvements are guys with incredible injury history.
Right.
I mean,
Like Connolly.
Matthew Lombardi and Connolly are a hit away from not playing again.
Right.
It's like we filled the team with Mark Savards. So that's so risky. You never know. Apparently they're very skilled guys.
The ceiling is high, but who knows it?
Yeah. So that's such a drag. I wish we were with the Leafs where we are with the Blue Jays.
Well,
just some promise. You think, wow, those guys are great. I met Brett Laurie like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
And Aaron Sebia.
Yeah.
And they're everything about them is what you'd like. They're first of all really nice guys. They're really happy to be in Toronto.
It's great.
I mean, a guy from Miami, he loves it. You
Yeah.
think, okay, this is good.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you'd get the same charge out of Meaningfield Kessel.
Probably not.
You like Toronto? I don't know.
Well, apparently they have that skyscraper soul to bring it back together.
Those boys have a skyscraper soul.
There you go. Thanks so much for taking the time. Really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Nice to talk sports with you too.